that should not be the first thing y'all hear. Okay, that it won't be. What up? It's your girl, Vache, aka Melanie Dope. Come on in the room. Okay. Look, I'm a little late starting the day because my bestie hit me up. And then so I started chatting with her. And then I was like, oh shoot, I have a whole live to go do and read to my niggas. Okay. So yeah, so she's very laid back, you know what I'm saying, very free on this beautiful Venus day. I love it. Venus Day, other than Moon Day, because that's the day I was born, is my favorite day. Okay, because you just feel Friday just gives you that feeling. You know what I'm saying? If you are a 9 to 5er, you know what I'm saying. Friday means that you ain't got to see them people that you don't like until Monday. You know, okay, you get a break from having to exist in the matrix. Okay, and we love a break from the matrix, do we not? But yeah, so my bestie wants to go down to that local black owned herbal shop here. So I was like, hell yeah, let's go. What up, classmate? But I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. There we go. But yeah, so like I said, because I was running my mouth with her, kind of stopped getting myself ready for my live. So I'm a little behind this morning. However, I'm showing up. Okay? Hi. So welcome in. Right? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Oh, that's good. All right. So, where are we today? We are on chapter 7. But before we get into chapter 7, just recapping, we are now in the part of the book about the ancestors. Okay, in this tradition of hoodoo, okay, in most African derived, African diasporic traditions, you always put your ancestors first. Okay, so Juju is giving us the groundwork, you know what I'm saying, as to how to approach, how to commune, how to kick it with your ancestors. Okay, in layman's term, I like to keep it simple. Layman's term, we learn how to kick it with our ancestors. Okay, so but that's also called ancestral veneration, right? So in my stories, and it should still be up, there's an activity in the book called Ancestral Imagination Activity. Okay, and so we're gonna do that today. I only did it yesterday, but I ran out of time, and I'm gonna try not to talk too much. Y'all know how I do, but I'm gonna try not to talk too much so that we can get through chapter 7, because I think chapter 7 is kind of juicy too. Yeah, chapter 7 is kind of long, so I just might not be able to get through it. However, if I don't get through it with a part 1, then there'll be a part 2 today. Okay? Yeah, and it just means you'll see me twice today. All right, so let's start. Let's get into it. So we are talking about ancestral imagination activity. All right, so it says, hopefully by now you've gotten excited about the good things that can come from establishing a strong connection with your ancestors. Let's keep that imagination going for a minute with this exercise. Read through this paragraph, and once you understand this exercise, set your book down to fully immerse yourself in the experience. Okay? So it says, when you're ready, take 3 deep, slow breaths before you start this exercise to ground yourself wherever you are. Okay? Imagine that you are in a calming space. I recommend a place outside that has good memories of you. Maybe a childhood park in a beautiful pasture, or even on a beach. Now imagine a ring of people starting to form around you. They slowly begin to appear, wearing long white robes or some kind of familiar garments. You start to feel the energy become supercharged as more bodies and faces appear slowly. There are now about 10 people filled. There are now about 10 people filled with calming, loving energy circling you. It feels like the biggest hug, although none of them are touching you. You start to recognize some of these faces, or maybe you do not. Pause. As I'm reading along, I hope you are imagining, because I am. And this is so beautiful. I love this. I love this. Okay. Whether these are some people you know by name, it's very clear that you are loved and protected in this moment. The ring of people continues to grow and expand with your continued breathing. At first, it was 10 people, but soon it becomes 20, then 30. The energy from the circle continues to grow stronger, but stays very, very calm and extremely loving. With every inhale, 10 more people come to this ring around you. As you exhale, 10 more people arrive. Young and old faces fill the space. Eventually, the circle ceases to grow wider, but rather starts to form rings around you. There are so many people that circle around you that it creates multiple rings, 2, 3, 4. The space needs to fit in all these new faces, looking at you so lovingly. Take in all the love and support from these unknown faces. Take in what it feels like to be wrapped around so many people who seem foreign to you, but who you know care about you, even if you've never met them. Allow yourself to bask in whatever feelings or information may be coming to you at this time. What are you hearing or feeling from them? You can be in this space as long as you desire. Continue deeply breathing as you soak this in. When you're ready to come out of this meditation, keep breathing as you notice the faces and long-robed individuals start to slowly disappear as you remain in the middle. Thank them and open your eyes. This simple exercise is a way to train your mind's eye to start connecting to the power of the ancestors that are already around you. Oftentimes, when I am conducting readings for clients, their ancestors will show up hovering around the client lovingly and peacefully, such as this visualization we just practiced. Do this work as often as you like to start to better sorry y'all. Do this work as often as you like to start to better understand how that ancestral energy shows up in your life, so you can visualize the amount of support that is possible. Okay, that's beautiful. Because when I'm gonna tell y'all something, again, I took a picture of this. I took a picture of this and put it in my story. So go get that. Go get your screenshot on, and so you can keep doing this. But also go to It's Juju Bay's profile link. She has a link in her bio, and go buy the book. Okay, the book is great. Whew. But the questions, they say, what was the experience like for you? Were you able to see anything? Okay, when I did this, because I did it last night. So it just felt good. You know what I'm saying? Anytime and what's really funny is when I read through this, I was like, oh, this is how I visualized them coming to me anyway. I mean, it may not have been an enclosed circle, but I just be standing there and they just surround me. I wasn't thinking of the tens upon thousands upon thousands of ancestors. You know what I'm saying? But as you continue to sit there and you just keep piling on, just asking your known and unknown ancestors. Okay. I have an ancestral prayer that I have to go grab and I'll post it. Okay. So what did this experience feel like in your body? Did you experience cold or hot sensations? I always feel warmth. It's not necessarily cold nor hot. It's like lukewarm. It's just like it's more so pressure than like something squeezing in on me, but not in a malicious way, a hug. It just feels like a hug. So I would say warm. So did this teach you anything about your ancestors or yourself? If so, what? Mm, I got the power. Why is that song coming to my head? It's like, I got the power. Okay, but no, for real. I have the power to connect to my dead folks. I don't need any, you know what I'm saying? I tell you all the time, yes, I am here to help you connect. I will read cards for you, you know what I'm saying? But you, honey, you can connect to your dead folks. So I love feeling empowered to connect with my dead people. Okay. Yes. If you had trouble visualizing this image, what do you think may have gotten in the way? A lot of the times, what get in my way is my overthinking, or yeah, mostly just overthinking. I be trying to think about everything else instead of, and then it's a you'll one thing I've learned about meditation is that you will never be able to just clear your mind. What up, Taste? How are you, boo? You'll never be able to just fully clear your mind, but what you can do is say, okay, I'll come back to that thought later, push it on back, and then concentrate. That's why I like guided meditations. Okay. I really like a good guided meditation because you can't hear me. Oh, that sucks. Hold on. Now I gotta check my thing. Give me a second. I got the power. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. So I just been sitting here talking this whole time on Instagram, and you can't hear me. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Ooh, baby, I think I love you from head to toe. Oh, oh. Mm. I'm trying to pull it up on my laptop now to make sure I'm being heard because I don't know. The name is Taste My Wetness Climax. Like you a bot, but I'm gonna make sure that you ain't lying to me. Nope, you really can't hear me on here. I wonder what happened. Mm. Oh well. Oh yeah, I know why I can't hear myself. It's because it's connected to that. Hold on, y'all. There we go. Okay, so y'all missed that whole thing. I didn't even notice that Facebook and YouTube was muted. But as I was saying, let's get into chapter 7 because it's 10 o'clock and I want to get through it. But y'all make sure y'all go get that the ancestral imagination activity out of my stories. Look, I'm trying to make sure I counted that right. Yep, it is a good 20 plus pages. So let's get into it. Ancestors are everywhere. Babies, bones, and Bibles. All right. My ancestors are my very best friends, and talking about them is one of my greatest joys and privileges. However, I know that the term ancestor is very big. It can encompass many people, personalities, and celestial bodies. In this chapter, I will try to make the concept of ancestors as simple as possible, while acknowledging that understanding the specifics of this group of spirits can be a complex undertaking, and they can contain myriad understandings that must be addressed. To understand the ancestors' importance, I love to share a story that my former therapist, Dr. Linda Robinson, shared with me. I was very early in my journey of studying ancestors, Orisha, and other spiritual cosmologies. Like many people newly initiated into the world of African spirituality, I was so obsessed with connecting myself to specific high-level deities. I wanted to know more about deities like Oshun, Urzuli Dantor, and Centella Ndoki. These deities seemed more interesting to me. Their mysterious ways and lore inspired me to want to get and set up shrines I knew nothing about. I felt especially close to these spirits and others, and I began to attribute a lot of my blessings to them in particular. Although this was sometimes the case, I was neglecting to first address my ancestral path, since it had allowed me to connect with these deities in the first place. Dr. Robinson, who also happened to be an Oshun priestess, was a perfect person to talk to about my newly developing spiritual journey. Above all, she shared with me the importance of prioritizing our ancestors before jumping into relationships with other deities. Okay, ancestors first, y'all. During one of our sessions, Dr. Robinson politely asked me, "Who do you believe is most important in your life, your ancestors or other deities like the Orisha?" "I'm not sure," I answered. "The Orisha?" "The Orisha are very important," she said. "But imagine this. Say you have a small child with you and you are walking down the street. I run into you and your child and I have a piece of candy that I want to share with your baby. Can I just walk up to your baby and hand them a piece of candy?" No. Don't be handing my baby stuff without my permission." "Exactly. I would need to ask you if I can give your child some candy. That would be the only way that your child can get some, or you would have an issue with that." Ancestor relationships work in a similar way. Other deities may have blessings for you, but if your ancestors say no, then it's just no. I'm forever grateful to Dr. Robinson for sharing that information with me, because it really crystallized the importance of being in a good relationship with my ancestors in my mind. If I want all my blessings, I need to make sure my ancestors are allowing me to get every piece of candy possible that I can eat, or to see that the candy is good for me at all. Essentially, ancestors are the group of spirits who lived before us and have passed away physically, but whose life, love, sacrifices, and intentions still fuel us. In the Orisha tradition, we refer to ancestors as our egungun, but they are ancestors not simply because they died, but because they reached the status of ancestorship. Yes, to be an ancestor is a title of status that is earned. To make it simple, dying doesn't make you special. Everybody does it. Some people die and now they're just dead. If someone who was an absolutely wretched person in life passes away, they do not become an ancestor simply because they died. They probably have a bit more work to do in order to reach that status, if they ever do. Okay, that's a word right there. So that's to say that if they weren't shit when they were living, then don't count on them when they're dead. Okay. So it's a lot of people that you ain't got to call on just because they did. Okay. Check that. Anyway, where we at? They probably have a bit more work to do in order to reach that status if they ever do. To be an ancestor, to be a gungun, is an elevated state of being that an individual earned because of their role and or age. An egungun has been uplifted as a venerated spirit within their community, which gives them the label of ancestor. This communal elevation is such an important reason why our ancestors want to be remembered by families and the collective. Our ancestors want to live on, and they do so through our memories as well as through their connection with the living. I'm seeing Coco. You know what I'm saying? When a little kid went to the other side, he during the Day of the Dead, and he met his dead family, his ancestors, and one of them was dying. Was about to, well, he was already deceased, but he was about to be forgotten because Coco was getting old and forgetting her father, and she was on her way to the other side too. But yeah, if you haven't seen Coco, go see it. I mean, it's on Disney Plus if you haven't. In many African traditional belief systems, ancestors can be reborn through their descendants and other people. Think of how you see a baby and say, they've been here before. That's a way that many Black folks have retained the knowledge that ancestors reincarnate through new life. The ancestors are often reborn again because they have lessons or destinies that they need to fulfill, that they were not able to fulfill in their previous lives. This is why they choose to be born through specific family members so that they can complete whatever soul mission they may have and fulfill responsibilities that they may have to themselves, their families and their communities. Now, here is where it may get a little complicated. Although an ancestor can be reborn through a newborn baby, their entire essence is not necessarily in that new baby. Let me read that again. Although an ancestor can be reborn through a newborn baby, their entire essence is not necessarily in that new baby. Okay? Oh, I didn't know that. That's new to me. This means that even if an ancestor may have reincarnated in a baby, you may still be able to connect with your grandfather's spirit outside that baby for love, care, and advice. That's so cool. When you get to learn this stuff, you be like, dang, this shit is cool as fuck, bro. Like, for real. For example, you may have lost your grandfather as a child, and now that you are of birthing age, you find yourself pregnant with a boy. Your entire family thinks that the baby has an old soul with mannerisms that highly resemble those of your grandfather. Based on some African spiritual systems and beliefs, you could determine that the grandfather was reborn as your son to fulfill his soul duties within the family. Let me pause right here. When I tell y'all my son looked just like my mama's father to me. He looks just like my Uncle Bo. He looked like a pitman, period. I mean, everybody be like, oh, yeah, he look like you. Y'all got to see some of my ancestors' pictures. Yeah, I do believe. I do believe Baz is possibly my grandfather reincarnated. Boy, and if that's so, damn. All right. Anyway, however, just because your grandfather is now your son does not mean that your son is not his own person, or that your grandfather is also not present within the ancestral realm watching over you. I know this can sound a bit confusing, but when understanding and relating to spirits, you're not able to apply traditional rules of time and space to them. Ancestors and other spirits can and do exist within multiple realms, within multiple people, and during multiple times and generations. There are also different kinds of ancestors. There are also different. There are also different kinds of ancestors that influence our lives, and it's important to name them before we discuss how to grow in relationship with them. There are blood ancestors, collective ancestors, and overall ancestral spirits who may not even be human. That clicking, ain't it? When you think about your familiars, your cats, your dogs, your pets, snakes, butterflies coming to you, a particular squirrel that just befriends you. Is it clicking? Is it clicking? I can't snap with my right. I snap my left. But is it clicking? All right, so blood ancestors. Blood ancestors are traditionally the people that we descended from. Like a grandparent or a great grandparent, great grandparent, grandmother. I also consider blood ancestors to be deceased family members who have elevated to the ancestral realm, regardless of whether you descended from them. For example, if you had a younger cousin pass away, they could be considered a blood ancestor. If someone lost a baby while in utero, that child can be considered a blood ancestor. I know that in our minds, we sometimes visualize ancestors as elderly people because we don't want to lose our loved ones until they've lived a long life and die of old age. Unfortunately, we know that babies, children, teens, and young adults pass away too. And I believe that they join the ancestral realm regardless of the age they were when they died. Children, just like adults, have their own support, guidance, and insight that is valuable for them to share with the living. I like to think of ancestors as the people who stand up for us and claim us in the spiritual realm. Sometimes I imagine all my ancestors in heaven bragging to other people saying, "Oh, you see her? Yeah, that's my baby. She got her looks from me. She can run fast just like I did. She learned to cook from me. I'm the one that whispers what seasoning she needs to use to use the salmon cakes that everybody loves." In that same vein, when I've messed up in the world and have wreaked havoc on myself and others, I imagine the creator looking around like, now whose child is that causing chaos? To which my ancestors begrudgingly stand up on a cloud and say, yeah, that's ours. We've been trying to get her together, but she ain't listening right now. Just give her a moment. Ashe. Boy, we thank you, ancestors, for standing in. Oh, okay. Standing between the gap. Okay. Because that last, I know my mama and my grandmama probably stood up there in the gap plenty of times saying that, like, God, just give her a chance, Lord. Just hold off, hold on. She gonna get it together. She fucking up now, but she gonna get right. I know y'all see it. I know y'all see it. Prayers answered. Okay. Where we at? And the spirits chuckle together, shake their heads, and agree as their great grandchild continues to embarrass them. They are, after all, our spiritual representatives whose lives are so intricately tied with ours because of the bloodline and connection. Basically, blood ancestors are the people whose blood is coursing through your veins. These are the individuals whose traits you may have, whether you know it or not, in your features and your personality. There is an incentive for our past relatives to be reborn through us or other family members. Because of the familial connection, they know some of the strengths and weaknesses within the family and can infuse the wisdom that they gained in the afterlife back into the lineage. This can happen even if we don't have a personal connection or relationship to our blood relatives. This is why, regardless of whether we know our blood relatives personally, it helps to have a connection to them because they know so much about our family histories, health, generational setbacks, and strengths that can aid us in our everyday lives. A common misconception about blood ancestors is that you have to know who they are in order to connect with them. Many people feel they in many people feel they cannot grow in relationship to this body of spirits because they don't have any pictures of them, have never met them, or don't even know their names. This is completely untrue. Just because you may not know certain people does not mean that they don't know you. Have you ever been to a function and someone you don't know or remember approaches you and says, "Oh my goodness, you've gotten so big. I used to babysit you." Or, "I remember when you were this tall. How have you been?" And as this person is so excited to see you, you have no idea who they are. That scenario is a little like how an ancestor relationship can work before you get to know them. It would be impossible to know all our blood ancestors. Some of our ancestors' names were never even documented, and pictures may not exist. Some ancestors lived before cameras, and some before language and communication as we know it. As a Black American, tracing family names can be extremely difficult due to slavery and lack of proper documentation of human beings. Whew. So much. Um, what was that? Names were changed or ignored. People were separated from their families, and documents were lost or stored poorly. But all the archival loss has inspired me to want to connect with my ancestors even more. We have hundreds of thousands of people that we descend from. So release the pressure that you need to know everything about them before connecting with them. Your ancestors are the people at the party who knew you when you were a baby, whom you may not remember. They value you and see themselves in you because you are them. They see their face in your face and your quirks in their quirks. Quirks. Yeah. These are the people who paved the way for us, sacrificed for us, and who usually did their best. I do understand that the concept of blood ancestors can get even trickier because not only may you not know your ancestors, you may not have a connection or know your blood family. Maybe you were adopted and never connected with anyone in your blood family. Or maybe you had a toxic relationship with your family that has been severed with absolutely no desire to connect with them in this life or the next. Let me be clear. It's not necessary for you to connect with any person, family or not, that was abusive, violent, or just plain disrespectful to you. I'm not in the business of forgiving people simply to forgive, especially if those people have never acted remorseful or sought a relationship of healing with you. I've often heard, "What about my white ancestors who were slave owners?" Do I have to talk to them? Again, I say that you are not responsible for venerating anyone who forced their way into your lineage. Also, remember that the term ancestor traditionally refers to someone who earned that title. Now, there are some people who choose to build a relationship with their slave owning spirits as a form of healing in the lineage or even reparation. But this is on a case by case basis, usually for the skilled practitioner. Let me tell you something. I don't venerate slave owners. I would never. You understand me? Like, that's not to say that I won't venerate my Uncle Willed's wife. Okay. She was German. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, maybe over there they may have. Okay. However, she was the sweetest old lady to us. You know. But when we get deeper into the lineage, just about every black person is probably gonna find a slave master in their lineage because they were raping us. They were taking it every chance that they got. You know what I'm saying? And babies were born from that. But again, if they weren't shit in the living, they ain't shit in the dead, and more than likely they done came back anyway to fix their shit. Don't call on them people. Let them stew in hell. Okay. Okay. Where we at? A later chapter will be dedicated more clearly to those who feel disconnected from familial relationships due to racial tensions, abuse, separation, or other issues. But know that ancestors are still for you. You are not forgotten, and you have hundreds more ancestors who uplift you even when the ones you knew failed you. Excuse me. Trust they're being dealt with too. I'm telling you, let them people stew in hell. You ain't got to call on them. Okay? It's being worked out. Collective ancestors. Collective ancestors are equally as important as our blood ancestors, although we may not be related to them by blood. Collective ancestors are the bodies of spirits who came before us and who have reached the ancestral realm. These spirits have also been elevated by a community and can easily be seen throughout history as people that we revere even in death. Okay? So, as an example, and it just popped in my head, we were talking about how the bills, the money, the paper is ancestral veneration for their ancestors. Okay, see, they okay with ancestral veneration as long as we big up and we're elevating theirs. Okay, yes. Okay. So that would be their collective ancestor. That's an American, you know what I'm saying, ancestor that they're always being venerated. These spirits have also been elevated by a community and can easily be seen throughout history as people that we revere even in death. As an easy example is an individual like Harriet Tubman or Toni Morrison. You most likely are not related to those people. If you are, that's iconic and is. But we still can channel, thank, and revere them. I also have witnessed the power that these ancestors carry and how they've blessed so many of us regardless of a familial connection. Blood could not make me feel any closer to the esteemed author, Toni Morrison. I often feel her spirit through her written word and stories. She, as a collective ancestor, left gifts for us to help propel our lives forward with more meaning. That is the definition of a good ancestor. Another example is the Orisha deity of Shango, Kawo Kabiyesi, who is the Orisha of thunder, lightning, drumming, dance, and so much more. Although these are natural forces in the world, Shango is also a deified ancestor. He was said to be the third king or political head, Alafin, of the Oyo kingdom of the Yoruba people in Nigeria. Because of his respected status that only elevated after his death, he was deified in the status of Orisha. So Shango is both a deity and a collective ancestor who was able to achieve deity status because he was such an important and powerful person. He is probably one of the most well-known Orisha and considered by many one of the most powerful forces. His ancestorship is what was able to make him an Orisha to many collectively. As you can see, it is possible to channel the spirits of some of our collective ancestors as we would our blood ancestors. Interestingly enough, we often have access to the words, stories, and lives of collective ancestors even more than we do of our blood relatives. Particularly when I was more engaged as an activist in organizing spaces. I would often find myself and fellow organizers in dangerous situations while fighting in the streets for change. Prior to marching and protesting, we would commonly call on ancestors such as Harriet Tubman to protect us as we fought against state violence. She was an appropriate ancestor to channel because she was a freedom fighter who put her body on the line repeatedly for the liberation of her people. It would be foolish to move without the protection of ancestors such as her, as we can fight in this way because she fought in her way. I truly believe that our freedom fighting ancestors continue to show up for the living, protect us, and ensure our safety as we try to create a new and better future for our people. The potential lack of blood connection does not make this healing or protection any less potent. It's beautiful to be able to connect with others beyond those we are related to because, as many Black people know, sometimes we have cousins by love and not by blood, but they're still our cousins, okay? Like y'all my cousins. Speaking as someone who channels ancestors on behalf of the living through readings, it is not uncommon for spirits who are not related to the client by blood to show up in the form of an ancestor. Sometimes these spirits are friends of the family who may not have been connected to the client individually, but was, for example, their grandmother's best friend. So they've taken on a family role in the spiritual realm and claimed the client as a descendant. Oh man. And as I read that, I immediately saw my grandmama's best friend, Janie Ruth Hurt. Okay. Peace be upon her. Shout out to her. Yeah. Yeah. Hey girl. I'm gonna make sure I add her to my ancestor altar. Although I don't claim to know the ins and outs of how ancestral spirits convene, I definitely know that ancestors are not always the people you know or even think you know. It's about who knows you. Collective ancestors extend beyond those who have been deified or are popular. An ancestor of yours could be a house mother, a very important figure among gay, queer, and trans communities. House mothers often take the LGBTQ youth, embracing them as parents would, with no blood relation necessary. A collective ancestor may be someone who adopted you or practically raised the people you know as family. There is a common phrase thrown around, blood is thicker than water, implying that we are strongly connected to blood relations than to others. However, this phrase has been used incorrectly over time, completely negating its true meaning. The full phrase is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. A covenant is a promise or an agreement. Therefore, our promises and agreements are stronger than our family ties. If your friends if your friends, adoptive family, or collective ancestors have loved you more than your blood family, you are well within your rights to elevate those who have honored their promises to love and care for you. And as I cannot state enough, that does not always include those to whom you are related to by blood. I'll drink to that. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. All right. Okay, we getting on through. We getting on through. It's 10:30. All right. General ancestral spirits. So far, we've discussed quite a bit about ancestral spirits and how we are connected to them through blood or through relationship and covenant. Although, for the purpose of this book, the term ancestors will often refer to human spirits, there are many ancestral spirits who are not human. As stated earlier, ancestral spirits can exist across time, space, and dimensions. An ancestor spirit can exist within the ancestral realm while also being reborn and existing in the past and in the future. We have to move beyond the confines of our human minds to grasp the concepts such as these. So while you're expanding your mind, note that an ancestor could be a body of water, a tree, or the roar of thunder. Okay? And this is why you should always hug a tree. Get out and hug a tree. I haven't hugged a tree in a while. I'm going to go hug a tree today. I am. This can be considered a form of animism, which is the belief that natural objects also have a spirit and are living. Ancestors do not have the ability to speak through the elements, but they may also take on the form of animals or anything else found in the natural world. When you think about it, nature existed before the human footprint. Humans are fairly new to Earth. While water and other resources while water and other resources were present perhaps billions of years before the first recorded human being. The trees, waters, and rocks are ancestors too, because they existed before us. And I believe they will after we are gone. And that's facts. Because did y'all know that there's a crystal called petrified wood? Okay. And it's basically a Jurassic Park tree. You know what I'm saying? So it's petrified. I mean, it's now stone. It's that old, and it's real. It's polished up, real pretty. And I do have one somewhere. Okay, but this stone is said to be the stone of the ancestors. It's not in here. I had to find it, but if you are looking to connect with the ancestors and you like to do crystal grids, okay, petrified wood, go get that one. All right, I'm done with that. Where's my bottle of water? Because I be getting parched. Okay. Let's open her up and put her off to the side. Okay, listen. Okay. Here we go. What was that? Okay. To ground these sentiments a bit more, when we die, our physical bodies are often given back to the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The earth holds the bodies of so many of our ancestors who have decayed into the earth and often manifest again through plants, mulches, and earth matter. Did you know you can get your ashes like buried in a tree? I do believe that that's something I probably would do that. Either that or go throw it out in the Jamaica somewhere, right? There are stories. There are stories of the Kikuyu tribe of Kenya that say that a fig tree in Western Kenya also known as the Mugumo tree, embodies the ancestors and thus must be respected, honored, and never cut down. Some of our ancestors died in bodies of water, drowning by choice, or traumatically being cast overboard during long excursions as captives during enslavement. The great number of bodies that exist within the seas have created numerous spiritual entities that exist in water. Many practitioners within different Africana based faith practices honor the waters as a form of ancestral veneration to connect with the spirits that do live within those waters. Nature is one of the greatest ancestors. Sometimes we know an ancestor is near because a certain animal may cross our path, or the kind of bird that your deceased friend used to love so much perches itself on your windowsill. You may immediately think of your friend and feel an immediate connection to this animal when you see it. Your friend may have sent that bird as a reminder, or your friend's spirit may reside in the animal that she used to love. The limits of who the ancestors are, how they communicate, and how they manifest themselves are without end and can expand beyond our wildest imagination. Okay, so they could be anywhere in anything at any time. Got it. Okay, the ancestors got something to say. Now that we have a better understanding about who the ancestors are, we can understand the fullness of their beings and how they can affect so many parts of our lives. One day, we may all be ancestors, fulfilling our duties as elevated spirits who want to see growth, power, and change within our own communities. As we prepare to be good ancestors, we must learn from those who have done or are doing good ancestral work. From a traditionalist West African perspective, ancestors are the key to a good life. They have advice and insights that they would like to share in order to improve the experience of their families and tribal members. Culturally, ancestors would be summoned using a specific kind of ritual to hear this advice, which would be applied quickly to the lives of those seeking it. Ancestors were called when there were issues in the village that needed resolution. They had the ability to intervene in personal relationships, quarrels, famine, theft, sickness, and any problem that one could face. The ancestors would also be called in moments of celebration so that their descendants could thank and honor them for their good deeds and allow them to participate in rejoicing at the success of the village. One such ceremony that is still exercised today is the Egungun Masquerade Festival of the Yoruba people. Specific individuals within the village dress in beautiful and ornate colorful robes and cloth, covering their faces while others dance and drum around them. People in the community watch the masqueraders invite possession by the ancestors. During the drumming and dancing, the masqueraded ancestors address issues and strengths within the community while spiritually cleansing those taking part in the ceremony. They also give messages and warnings to those watching. This ceremony is important because it continues to solidify the importance of the dead among the living. If you are hoping to gain a more indigenous African spiritual way of understanding and being in the world, embracing ancestors will be a key part in your journey. And once again, although I'd argue that the majority of indigenous cultures held some form of acknowledgement of the importance of ancestors, many had specific members of the community who called on ancestral spirits. Sometimes these would be the elders of the community, as in the Dagara tribe in Burkina Faso. Oh, shout out to Burkina Faso. they're I don't know if it's a president or what his title is, but that he been white boy, he been cleansing his country, and I love that for them. Okay, shout out to Burkina Faso, West Africa, or in some cases certain people who had the gift to call on the ancestors were appointed to do so. Given the interest in ancestor communication within the last few years, I have seen a surge of interest in developing that gift. Okay. My journey of embracing my ancestors began in about 2013, and then I noticed a shift and conversations increasing in my generation as a millennial, particularly in 2016. That's when I started looking deeper. Okay. The alignment is crazy. This was the period when I spent a lot of time in Facebook groups searching for and sharing this content, including a collection of think pieces that inspired me to seek out more. I began to see more and more conversations about ancestors happening online, and concepts such as ATRs and ADRs began to ring in the mouths of many. Pop cultural icons like Beyonce were even portraying deities such as the Orisha. There seemed to be a remembering or resurgence bubbling among members of my community and even outside it. Words like ancestors became used constantly on shirts, Facebook posts, and throughout the media as Black folks grappled with their identities on the heels of heightened politicized police violence against innocent Black bodies. What up, Black Dragon? Let's see who this. I can't see. Quotes such as "We are our ancestors' wildest dreams" began to penetrate the psyche of many, some of whom, oh yeah, I remember this, some of whom not have even considered much about what an ancestor was prior to these events. In my opinion, this was a catalyst for a shift in our perception, where we finally began to open ourselves to what the ancestors were trying to tell us, taking their rightful place in the land of the living. Again, I am not purporting that people didn't start doing ancestral work until 2016. We can't ignore the many people and elders who have prioritized ancestral significance for generations through folklore sharing, altar building, and storytelling. I only mean to highlight the difference between now and then. The concept of secrecy. Not much is a secret anymore, which has its pros and cons. But before this shift, if people were engaging with the spiritual medicines of our ancestors, it wasn't to be chatted about. Now we won't shut up about our rituals. Pause. And I'll be telling y'all, that's why y'all, if I post a work, it is months old. And even then, you may get a little bounce. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna play the whole video, and that's why I feel like that's a taboo. You know what I'm saying? Um, and when I say posting the works, I mean like on public posts. Like if I was to do a group ritual, then I post it in the group. I don't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? But posting my works just for everybody to see and try to curse my shit. Honey. No. Okay. Okay. Now we won't shut up about our rituals. I know this has some elders in a tizzy. People being so loud about a practice that was once so quiet. Yet that very thing has made our ancestral beliefs more accessible. More and more people are crossing over into Juju land, and it's become the power. And it's because the power of the media. Mm-hmm. Like right now, everybody got their panties all in a tizzy because of that new movie, The Deliverance. What time is it? Oh yeah, it's 10:45. I'm gonna have to put the bookmark here. Let me find the bookmark. I don't know where it is. We'll just throw this bill here, child. Okay, we're gonna stop right here. So yep, and I will either try to go live later on so we can finish up this part of the chapter 7 and probably roll into chapter 8. But y'all know I have to go with the flow of how Baz how Baz lets me move. But if I don't go live, if I don't go live this evening, oh, I know I'm not going live this evening. If I don't go live, if I don't go live before 4:00, I won't be going live until tomorrow and or Sunday. One day out this weekend. It'll probably, matter of fact, it'll be Sunday. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say Sunday. Yeah. So we'll finish up chapter 7 and roll on into chapter 8 come Sunday morning. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much for pulling up on your girl. The books are open. So get at me if you need me, and I will catch y'all next later. Peace.